Hi guys, I am going to attempt a tutorial on how to make the little needle felted pig. We've had a lot of requests for it, so I'm going to try to whiz through it and not bore you to death. But anyway, basically all you need is some pink wool or white or orange or whatever you choose, and some dark color for the eyes. I use the natural brown from our baby doll sheep, but you can use black or brown or whatever you pick. Okay? So basically, you get started with the pink roving and you just start rolling. Put your pointer finger into the roving and kind of roll around, making the basic egg shape for needle felting, keeping it tight and rolling. You want to make it a little longer than wider because it's going to be the body of the pig, so you don't want it to be like a sphere. And I'm just going to add some more because I want it a little bigger and keep rolling. And I think I you want to make sure that you end with like a smooth surface. And I have kind of like some lapses in the roving there, so I'm just going to make sure I have a nice wide piece of roving and go over that to keep it nice and smooth. Just take out anything you don't want. And I think that I'm happy with that size and that shape. So you just take your needle felting needle and start stabbing in to the seam where you stopped rolling. I'm going to kind of do this quicker than I normally would just for sake of the video, but you definitely want to take your time and make sure you get the whole body shape felted and sculpted the way you want it to be, because it'll just make it look more finished than if you go as fast as I am for this video's sake. Make sure, see, I have little black fibers because I'm being a bad example and using my white pad, but I thought for the camera's sake that the other colored pad I used for colored roving, it wouldn't have shown up as well. So generally I use a different felting surface for white versus colored rovings, just because they all kind of mix in after a while. You can see how it sticks to my felting surface here. So anyway, after you've sculpted and stabbed your little pig body into the texture and shape that you want it to be, you can set that aside, and then we're going to make the legs that are basically just little spheres with the loose end for attaching. Obviously you need 4 of those, and you just take your roving, and I always fold the outside edges to kind of the length I want, and then roll it on itself. Keep the toe part finished, keep it tucked in because you don't want both ends loose, and tack that in along the top and keep rolling it to keep felting along. And then I always felt in the bottom of the foot to keep it flat. Okay, so you're going to want to obviously do 4 of those. I've already done the other 3 just to save us time, but so you do 4 of those, and then you kind of want to look at your body piece and think, which end do I want to be the head and which do I want to be the tail? And you kind of want to like envision cheeks and the nose and everything else. And so I think I want mine to be this way. So I'm going to attach legs, and I just go on the side of the body and tack in the loose ends. And then once I've got the outside part done, I always go inside the leg and felt down in there. You always want to make sure you're not felting towards your fingers, because these needles are barbed and they hurt and can cause some damage, especially when they're ripped out. So you want to line it up and make sure the legs are kind of even so he's not standing all crooked. I made this pink wool from just using some of the liquid pink Rit dye that you can get at the grocery store or, you know, Walmart, basically anywhere has Rit dye in like the laundry section for some reason. And I just boil it on the stove for a few minutes and then turn it down to a simmer, add the wool for a little while if I want light pink, or a longer while if I want it darker. And then I drain it out in a salad spinner that I got at a garage sale, and spin the wool out in the salad spinner, and then just let it dry like in the sun for a day or so, and then you have pink wool instead of white wool, which is great. So it makes it easier because buying all different colored rovings gets expensive. So I have the white wool for my sheep and can just dye it any color I want. You can mix colors just like paint and get all sorts of crazy stuff. You can even use Kool-Aid for dyeing. I use Kool-Aid for my oranges because I like the orange Kool-Aid color that comes out better. So, okay, so we've attached all 4 legs. You want to take your time to do that. And then you take a small little chunk of pink roving and fold it in on itself, because we're going to make the nose. And you want the nose to have some dimension and not be like flat. So I don't felt it until it's on the body itself, and then I shape it around as I'm tacking it on, because that keeps the edges attached to the body but lets the fiber kind of spring forward and give it like that pig nose look, so that it's not flat. So you tack in the edges all the way around, and then you want to go underneath and kind of give it that indent that a pig's nose kind of seems to have on the snout. You can shape it however you want. And I always say, like, if you're felting animals, it's best to keep like a picture. You can Google and use like Google Images to put pictures up on your laptop while you're felting, and that can give you a little inspiration for shapes of things. And then when I'm done attaching the nose, I always just do little indents for the snout and felt those in. Okay, so now we're this far along and we just need some ears. So for the ears, you want to take, I always take 1 piece of roving and split it in half so that you have equal amounts. And then you fold so you have an even edge on the top of 1 piece, and fold the corner in and this in, and then you end up with a point like that. And then you can just felt it. Remember, your needle's your guide, so like the wool is not going to go anywhere your needle doesn't, so you can't really mess it up. And when you're felting a flat piece onto your felting surface, you want to make sure that you flip it often, because if you don't, you're going to end up with little chunks of ugly sponge in your felting piece, and you don't really want that. And you leave the bottom end, just like the legs, loose. Like this one has a little bit more than we need really, but you want to keep the bottom loose so that when you attach it, you can attach it and it doesn't have a seam and it looks nice. Okay, so we're going to do that again for ear number 2. Fold and fold. You want to kind of hold it next to the other one to make sure that they're even, so we have matching ears, not one bigger than the other. Again, I'm kind of going fast so that you guys don't have to like sit through the whole process. Normally it takes a little bit longer because you want to make a nice finished product, but and make sure it's sturdy, especially if you're giving this to little kids to play with, because they have a tendency to like to pull things off. So you want to take lots of extra time to try and keep it, you know, keep things attached so you don't have any tears over earless or legless piggies. Okay, so now you've got your 2 ears to attach. I'm going to felt these in a little bit, so you kind of take the sides of the ears and just pinch it together and felt that down to give it a little dimension. And you can leave them flat. Sometimes I do one, sometimes I do the other. Like just right now I feel like doing a little pinched ear like this. This one has a flat ear and it's still cute. So it's just kind of like whatever you choose. But so I'm going to do that to both ears, to pinch them together and just felt it together so that it has a little different dimension to it. And then when you attach it on, you want to take the loose ends and separate it so you have some all around it. And felt that in so that it's a nice smooth edge and not very seam, you know, it doesn't have a big seam to it. Some of my wool is different shades because like I said, I dye it on the stove, and sometimes like just depends on like temperature of that day or what's going on, you know, the house, if the oven's on underneath it or whatever, it can affect it. But the color takes differently sometimes, like in the same batch even, like one part of the wool will come out darker than the other or whatever. So that's just part of the whole doing it yourself aspect that you have to deal with. And I think it's cool because it gives it some shadows and some, you know, different dimensions to it. But if you don't like that, you can always buy your stuff professionally dyed from a mill or a festival or whatever. Some people are pretty good at it, and I'm just not one of them. So you keep poking until you get a finished edge and make it smoothed out. So he's got some cute sticky up piglet ears. And now we just need our eyes. I'm going to take some of the natural colored roving from, this is from Hope. And we're gonna, Hope is my little black sheep that lived in the house for so long. So you just take it and kind of split it in half and then roll it in your fingers to get little ball shapes that are the same size, and then tack it in wherever you want. I always put mine right over the snout because I think it's cute. You can also take some of this natural color and make little snout holes if you'd rather than just making the dimensional, you know, indent with your needle for the nose. I don't really do that. I always just like the way it looks with the indent, little tear drop shape, but that's totally up to you. So then you want to take a little tiny piece of wool and wrap that around the needle on your sponge and kind of just roll it back and forth with your needle, and that'll give you a little tiny tubular shape. And when you get to the end, you just kind of hold it down and carefully tack it down with your needle to get a little tail shape for your piggy. And then you attach that to the little rear end. I can hear my helper getting up in the background. So anyway, there you go. You have a felted piggy.